everyone, and welcome to this next talk at the Content Marketing Virtual Summit. It's Jason here, and I'm here with Daniel Hughes, who is the CEO of More Than Words, with a tagline that's pretty awesome. It's the copy that you wish you could write. And pretty much from interacting with Daniel before the talk and learning a bit about her, one of the things I really see in her approach is making copy fun and making copy a little bit unique so that it has personality. It's all about creating an actual personality that comes through the copywriting. And some of the companies and clients that Danielle has been helping and has helped include the Discovery Channel, Google, Nickelodeon, Gap, Visa, Columbia University, Blue Cross Blue Shields. So it's been a really wide range of different types of companies, finance companies like PayPal, apparel companies like Boxster Apparel, and so on. So I'm really excited to have her as a featured speaker at our summit. And today, after I introduce her, she's going to talk about creating an about page that attracts. And so that's going to be great. So welcome, Danielle, and I'll hand it over to you. You can share your screen and take it over.
Great. Thank you so much. Give me 2 seconds to do all the, one day I'll figure out how I can have the present on before I do the sharing, but I don't know how to do that. There we go. All right. I think we're about to be up and running, hopefully.
Yeah, it'll take
we're loading. There we go.
There we
all
go.
Right.
Awesome. Sweet.
Okay, great. Okay. So yeah, so hi everyone. So not CEO, Chief Personality Officer. And I only say that because when you have your own company, you can call yourself whatever you want, which is one of the perks. And it's all part of personality brand, which we're going to get into. But essentially, I just am a big believer in your about page, how important that is, your about on LinkedIn. And the reason that we want to have this is because we want to stand out in a sea of sameness, because we all know that we live in a world where no one reads and everyone is a self-proclaimed influencer. So I'm going to give you a super quick background. As Jay said, I've worked for some major television organizations and other companies. Then I moved into the agency world and I worked at a word of mouth marketing agency. And then for the past amount of years, I've had my own company and I've really honed my own brand voice. And now I speak on voice and how to engage your audience. And if you really want to find a way to my heart, you can give me wine, ice cream. And I also really like to curse, but I will try not to do that here because I'm assuming that we're a family conference. So be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. So you probably know this quote from Oscar Wilde. It's very famous, but I think that it bears repeating and thinking about, because we forget when we are living in a world where there's so many people that do what we do, right? Whether you're a writer, designer, lawyer, whatever, there's hundreds and millions of people that do the same thing that you do, but none of them are going to do it the way that you do it, because none of them are you. And so when we realize how much our own authenticity and our own genuineness can be an asset to what we do in business, it just makes everything that we do easier. So I just want you to remember that you are the only you, and there's a reason that you are the only you. And we're going to talk about how you can lean into yourself more so that you attract the right types of people. And more importantly, we're going to repel the wrong kinds of people. So personal versus personality brand. So when personal brand, that kind of phrase kind of came onto the scene a number of years ago, it never really sat right with me, because to me, something personal is private. That's literally the meaning of the word personal. So why would I be telling the world my personal business? It never felt comfortable, and I just didn't understand how that would help me in business or in life. But our personality is who we are, right? It's innately baked into who we are. And more importantly, it's what's on display. So when we interact with people, they're getting a sense of our personality. They're getting a sense of who we are as a person. And that is what they're going to connect to, right? They're not going to connect to something personal. They're going to connect to your personality and how you offer your message and what they respond to. So the more we can lean into who we are, the more we can drive those connections, right? So personal brand, we think about this, right? Like bearing our soul, we're basically in a field and the whole world is looking at us and we're half naked, right? Or at least that's what I think of when I think of a personal brand. But personality brand is all of this. It's weirdness, it's introvertedness, it's food, it's nature, it's swimming, it's colorful clothing, it's anything that makes us genuinely who we are. And really just tapping into that in all of the things that we put out into the world. Right. So I like to ask people, what is something about your personality that you can bring into your message, right? Maybe you have a favorite hobby that you like to do. Maybe there's an expression that you like to say all the time. Maybe you wear a specific color of clothing, or maybe you're always wearing scarves, or you wear fun ties, or you wear crazy earrings. Your favorite anything. It could be the food that you like to make. Something that people would potentially associate you with. And I'll give you some quick examples that maybe you think don't necessarily translate. But the reason that we talk about this is you can tap into something that you love in order to showcase what it's going to be like to work with you and what you're going to be like as a service provider. So I do workshops around this same topic, and I had someone take my class, and she said in the first class that she is really into birding and bird watching. It doesn't interest me in the least, but I think it's really fascinating. And I think that when you think about bird watching, there is a certain type of person that would be a really good bird watcher, right? They have to be patient. They have to be detail oriented. They have to be willing to just kind of sit and be still. And so they're probably really thoughtful and quiet, right? And so as a writer, someone who's a bird watcher is going to pay attention to the details. They're not going to rush. They're going to really dig into what's going on, and they're going to notice the little things because they have to study their subjects, right? So anything like that, where you're marrying what you do or how you do it to something that you love, is what we're going for when we talk about bringing our personality into our message, right? Like at the beginning of this presentation, I told you how I love wine and ice cream and I curse. And that's part of my personality. And everybody knows it. And everyone that works with me will bring it up. I have potential clients who reach out and say, oh, I saw you mention wine on your website. I love wine. And again, we're creating that humanity around us so that people connect to us as people, because they want to know who you are first and what you do second. So the reason that personality matters is, we all know this, right? We're living in this extremely cluttered landscape right now, and always really. I mean, coronavirus makes it worse because everybody's online, everybody's competing for attention. But even before the virus and after the virus, we're just bombarded with messaging every single day. Everyone's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. And, there's this mistaken notion that nobody reads. Okay, I will tell you, and I'm sure that most of you watching this know, people read, but they're going to read what resonates with them or what catches their attention, right? If it's something that interests them, they're going to read it. If it's something that doesn't interest them, they're not going to read it, right? So again, the more we create that layer of realness and authenticity, the more likely someone is going to respond to what we have to say. And, at the end of the day, people are doing business with people, right? So your content is there to make you human and make you relatable. And even if you are writing for a brand or you're talking to a brand, the person at that other end is a person. They might work for a company, but they're still emotional and they're still going to respond and purchase emotionally. So the more that we bring ourselves into our message or make that brand more human, the more fully fleshed out our message becomes. And again, it's the more relatable it translates to the potential buyer. So business to business and business to consumer are H to H, human to human. So I can't take credit for this. I actually saw it somewhere, and I think multiple people are now using this. But the bottom line is that it doesn't matter, again, if you're talking to a consumer or you're talking to a business, that person at the other end is a human. And the more you can message to them as a human to a human, the more likely they are to respond to that messaging. Right? So when we think about that, how do we do that? Right? When we're human, it gives us a more opportunity to shine and add value. When we try to fit in, when we try to dilute our message, when we try to be very generic, you're just going to blend in and no one's going to be interested in you. So you want to go all in on who you are, right? There's only one of us. And so the more we can lean into who we are, the more that's going to come out and someone's going to respond to it. And I like to tell people, like, don't butt yourself. Meaning, don't say, well, I could put this, but, or I could do this, but. I like to practice the rule of improv comedy, which is yes and. In improv, they never negate an idea. Everything is yes and then this, right? So you're building on things, which creates more ideation, it creates more creativity. And we want to do the same thing in our own messages, right? We don't want to butt ourselves. We don't want to negate ourselves. We want to build on our message and build on our authenticity. And then that's going to lead us to a more genuine, real, and human message. The average time that any recruiter would look at your LinkedIn page, or if somebody looks at a resume or anything, anyone's coming to a profile is 7 seconds. Right? So we need to create dynamic copy that's going to grab someone immediately. And I can tell you right now, it's not going to do that if you open your bio with, I have X amount of years of experience, or I have this job at this company, right? It's a snooze fest. It's boring. No one cares. You need to shift the attention and change the narrative so that you are literally getting the attention of the person coming to your page immediately. And this also goes for the About page. It's the second most visited page on any website. And I have money that I would bet, if Vegas would take it, that this will soon be the #1 most visited page. Because if you Google a company, you can go right to that About page from the Google. You don't have to go to the home page, and people are interested in what is this company about and who works there and who is running it. They want to know the faces behind the brand. It's, again, looking for that connection. And the more you know about the people behind an organization, the more you can care about that organization as a whole. So how do we stand out, right? Sounds easy. Everyone's like, oh, sure, great personality. It's just easy to create copy where we stand out. Okay, it is. And I'm going to show you how. The first thing is that you can't write about yourself if you don't know who you are, who your audience is, what they need, what you can give them, and what makes you different, right? This is your brand positioning. So as a business, as a writer, you need to have a full understanding of these 4 pieces, because you can't have clarity and confidence if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, what makes you different, and more importantly, what is your audience looking for? What is the pain point that they're struggling with? And they, more importantly, need to understand that you know that your message to them is, if you are suffering this, I can help because, right? So literally identifying up top what it is that they're struggling with, right? So if our message is always, I do this and my company this, they don't care. They want to know that they are seen and that you are talking to them, right? If you are going through X, if you need this, if you are struggling, we can help because, right? So you're turning the dial from yourself to them. right? And again, we just kind of talked about this, but the brand positioning is essentially like, who's your audience, right? Their pain points. What is your category? What is your space? This could be a number of things. It doesn't necessarily need to be a vertical like finance or HR. It could be, the category is, people that are struggling with something, people that have health issues, people that, need coaching. I like to say, how are you different, or why are you effing awesome? Right. And this is where we go to Bragtown, right? This is not the place to hold back. This is the place to say, I do this and I do it well because, right. And then the bottom line again is, what is that payoff? Like, what are they going to get? And what can you do better than anyone else, or in a way that is more relatable or more effective, right? We know that there's competition. There's tons of people that do what we do, but nobody does it the way we do it. So how do we convey that to our potential audience? We want to focus on them, right? So this is about you, but in a way that, again, is serving your audience, right? So demonstrating that you know what they need. And more important, we want to demonstrate in our About page what it's going to be like to work with us, right? There is nothing worse than having a message that attracts everyone and then trying to have phone conversations with these people and prospecting calls and realizing that there's a complete disconnect because who you are in person is not who you are on the page, or you've misrepresented the way it's going to be like to work with you, right? So the beauty of this message is that you get to repel the wrong types of people. And that doesn't mean we're offending anybody. It's just the way we're writing our message is going to resonate with a certain type of person, which is the person we want to work with. And it's going to not resonate with a certain type of person, which is the type of person we don't want to work with, right? So if somebody comes to my website, they read my About page, they're going to get a sense that, like, it's going to be fun to work with me. I'm going to be very direct. This is what you're going to get. So if they call me and we have a conversation, we're basically best friends from the get-go, because they already have an understanding of what I'm going to be like, and they already have an appreciation. If I had a very formal, stiff message, and then I get on the phone and I accidentally curse, or I'm a little loud, they're going to be like, whoa, 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 this is not what we signed up for, right? So again, we're really just trying to showcase who we are and be honest about it, because we don't need to attract everyone. We just need to attract the right people. So another thing we can focus on is getting rid of anything that makes us super generic, right? Language like veteran, seasoned, experienced, savvy. These things are boring and they mean nothing, right? Seasoning is for food. Anyone can be experienced, right? Veteran is for people that serve, right? So we don't want to put any of these things in our profiles. They do nothing. They do not explain what we've done. They do not speak to our expertise. They do not speak to who we are. They are lazy terms for people that cannot fully articulate the value that they bring. All right, so I'm going to give you a couple quick makeovers to kind of show you what I mean. So this is a genuine about section of someone on LinkedIn. I have changed all the names. And I want to show you the difference between a very boring generic profile versus something that has personality and stands out. So this, and mind you, if it's our profile, if it's our event page, it should be written in the first person. You should never refer to yourself in the third person on your own page. So Sally Shapiro, CEO of Shapiro Event Staffing. They specialize in high-end wait staff for events in Westchester County. They provide waiters, bartenders, blah, blah, blah. If a company is looking to outsource their staff, we can accommodate both short-term and long-term requests. I mean, if you're still awake, congratulations, because this is boring and it says nothing. It's generic. They do high-end wait staff. Okay, great. Nothing else really interesting here. There's nothing for me to glom onto. They sound like everybody else, right? And again, this is Sally's page. This is not even the event page. So now, oops, sorry, we've updated it. Are you ready to party? As a young girl, I never met a dance floor I didn't like. In fact, my yearbook named me most likely to crash a wedding. That's why I founded Shapiro Event Staffing. I'm always up for a good time, but more importantly, I know you can't have fun if your event isn't run right. Whether it's your wedding day, anniversary, blah, 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 we provide the people and the peace of mind you need to ensure that the only thing people talk about the next day is how much fun they had, right? So the difference here is she's a fully fleshed person. She sounds really fun, right? You get a sense of who she was, but like besides her being fun, she found an event staffing company and she understands what's important, right? It's not just about having fun. It's that you can't have fun if your event isn't run right. So there's the pain point, right? Why do you hire someone to do an event for you? Because you don't want to do it because it's somebody else's responsibility to make sure it goes off well, right? Because you want to have fun at your own event, right? So she's telling you we provide the people and the peace of mind, right? To ensure the only thing people talk about the next day is how much fun they had, right? So fully realized person, really fun, sounds like she totally knows how to plan an event. And there's that peace of mind that she knows that what's most important is that it's going to get done right. Drastically different, right? So I'll give you a couple more. This one is for a technology company. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's basically very generic, right? Staying on top of changing technology. This company offers a complete range of services. And then the litany of services here, right? It's a ton of words. It's just a lot of jargon. It just looks like they just put all these words on the page because they're trying to show you that they know what they're talking about, right? And then at the bottom, a little bit about the owner. And again, just really like strategic solutions, analysis of tech can improve workflow productivity and cost effectiveness, right? You're not talking to tech people, right? The people that hire a tech company are not tech people. So you need to talk to them like they're humans because they're coming to you to solve their technological problems, right? So you throwing all of these fancy words in this profile does not give them peace of mind. It just confuses them. But if you can kind of change it around a little bit, and again, focus on the pain points of the audience. You don't have time to keep up with technology because you're too busy running your business. That's where we come in, right? We have been serving our customers in all aspects of their integrated services. It's okay to give a quick bulleted list of a couple of those services, right? We don't need to say everything we do. And then let's talk about the owner, right? One of the only women in her engineering program. Donna understands what it takes to build a business from the ground up and the adversity associated with it. In other words, she's kind of a unicorn, right? She can rebuild your mainframe with one hand tied behind her back. So still getting a sense of what this company does. They're talking to your pain points. Donna's got a personality. You know she's going to work hard, right? She talks about unicorn, which is kind of a tech term, right? So just adding anything that's going to talk to the audience, and all these things, they're talking to the audience, but they're still about the company and they're still about the person, but in a way that is serving both sides of the coin. I'm not going to read this one, but I'm just going to go do a quick skim. This is somebody else's about page, and this is an instance of way too much. So this is a food photographer, and she's a really great writer, but her initial about page had about 10 paragraphs of copy, and it was all like this. And if you look here in the third paragraph, she's just turning 14. So you can only imagine how much more there is to read, right? No one's going to read this, right? It's great. You could be a lovely writer. No one's reading this. They want to get the gist of who you are and what you bring to the table. So how do we change that? We break it up, right? We use subheads, we bold things, we create headlines. We want to kind of tell the story in chunks. And if somebody's attracted to some one of these blurbs, they're going to read it. They may end up going back and reading the whole thing, but what's going to grab their attention, right? So she's still talking about food is life, right? And then she's a photographer, right? So represents the sum of our needs and desires. She can be a little more ethereal, but then she gets into like why food is important to her, right? She grew up in Germany on a farm. She brings this holistic approach to her work, right? Now she has this passion for what she does. She talks about, working with agencies and creative directors. So it's like just a little bit of each of these things, again, to show a little bit about who she is and what she brings to the table. Okay, I'm just going to skip this one because this is nothing. And then this is a favorite that I have because I think it's very funny, and humor is always your friend. if you are funny, obviously, if you're not humorous, you don't have to force it. But if there's a little bit of self-deprecation you can put in, kind of making fun a little bit of what people are looking for. And so this is, I don't know, I just work here, right? Ringleader, head honcho, top cat, take your pick, right? She's like, I don't care. She spent too many years in the corporate world, tired of the bureaucracy, the sameness, and the bad coffee, right? Totally relatable. And so instead of forcing herself to fit inside a square hole, she founded Round Peg, which is the name of her company. And she's assembled this talented band of misfits with the same goals, belief in strategy, and love of cats, right? Like you get a total sense of who this person is. Obviously, she's got the chops to back it up. She's funny. And then this next section is all about kind of things that she loves, right? She talks about Italian food. She talks about art. She talks about museums and architecture. There's so much here that if you get on the phone with her, you're going to have this true understanding of who she is. And it's going to be really easy to start the conversation, right? It's like a dating app, right? Give them something to be able to talk to you about. Give them a topic, something that shows what you're interested in. You want to make it easy for people. And the more we can give them, the easier it is to have that conversation. So where do we start, right? I think the first thing, excuse me for 1 second, I have something in my eye. First thing is figuring out where is your line, right? When we talk about personal versus personality brand, what is that thing that you're comfortable sharing? What is your passion? What is your hobby? What do you love? Your favorite movie? Figure that out. If you're struggling for kind of how to describe yourself, or you're like, I'm not really sure what my, distinction is, ask people in your life. Ask your family, ask your friends, ask colleagues, ask clients. Ask them for like 4 or 5 words that come to mind when they think of you. And I guarantee that you will get a lot of synergy. A lot of people will come back with the same words, and probably things that you didn't even realize are so valuable to them in the way that they see you. Think about your favorite thing, right? You want to go as light as possible, meaning add whimsy, be fun. It's easier to like dial it back if you go too crazy and too light than it is to push forward if you start more generic. So almost try to go to the other end and write whatever you want. And then you can go back and edit it and say, okay, maybe this is a little too much. Maybe I don't want everyone to know that like I wet the bed when I was 5. Again, we want to be first person, right? So it's always I. And another way to make our writing really friendly is to write as if you're writing to a friend, right? So don't think about writing to a potential client or writing for a website. Think about writing to like a best friend. Think about writing to your grandma or like a 5-year-old. That's going to also force you to use simpler writing, simpler terms, really, just normal words, less jargon, etc. You want to narrow your focus. So narrow equals wide, meaning the more niche you can get, the more you define who you are, it actually attracts more people. It doesn't make any sense, but it 100% works. The more you define your brand and the more you focus it, the more people you're going to attract, because it's going to be so clear what you do and what you offer, right? If we just say we're a writer, people don't know who to refer to you. But if you say, you know what, I'm a writer and I really focus on, I only write about hedge funds, or I only write about, farmers markets, it makes it easier for people when they meet someone who needs that service to refer them to you. And then the other thing that you can do is if you sign up for my bi-monthly newsletter on my website, I have a free downloadable that is called my About Me Mad Libs. And if you're not familiar with Mad Libs, it's like a game from the 70s. And essentially it tells a story and you fill in key words and key phrases of the story to make it funny. And so what I've done is I've built sort of an about page framework, and I've given you prompts for where you can have fun with your message. And I give you sort of 2 more traditional prompts and 1 lighter prompt. And the idea is to see where you're willing to have a little bit more fun with how you describe your background and your expertise. And then the last thing, skimmable, scannable. Again, use bullet points, use headlines, use subheads. We want to make it really easy for people to just see what's on the page. Humor, again, always, if it's possible, and if it's on your brand. And then this great acronym, AIDA, attract, interest, desire, action, right? So our first thing, grab their attention, right? Bold opening statement, right? Like, I don't know, I just work here, right? That's really funny. That's a great opening line. Then what's the interest? What are you giving your reader to make them relate to what you have that's going to resonate with them? The desire, what are you going to do for them, right? What's going to make them be like, yes, I need to work with this person? And then the last thing is always, of course, our action. What do we want them to do? Do we want them to reach out? Do we want them to work with us? Do we want them to sign up for something? Whatever that is. And the most important thing always with writing is, of course, to have fun, because that's why we do this, because it's fun. And yeah, here's all my ways that you can get in touch with me, my website with my newsletter. You can follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, email, all the things. And there we go.
Awesome. That's so cool. All right. So yeah, if you can stop the share, then we can have it together. Okay, awesome.
There we go.
So firstly, thank you so much, Danielle, for talking at the summit and today. And one thing I really just want to pull out some actionable highlights and things I really loved about your talk. The first one is the concept that, you know, all writing and all experience has an emotional component. And you can, you can imagine someone coming to your About Us page and thinking like, are they going to laugh? Are they going to smile? Are they going to be curious? You know, what kind of emotions are they going to have? If you don't have any, and really in the first couple sentences, if you don't create some emotional connection with the person who's on your page, then you have to wonder like, what is the emotion that's absence of all emotion? And that's boring, right? That's boredom,
Correct.
like Daniel said. So I think
100%.
having that concept that, you know, your writing is a conversation, whether you intend it to be or not. And, you know, really thinking about that emotion without, as Daniel has said, you can always pull it back a little bit. And the other thing I really loved about your talk was I really love this idea that by having a strong About Us page and representing, you know, your personality, the first time you talk to someone is like they've known you, right? And you kind of click and hit it off, or you repel them away and you never have to worry about it.
Exactly.
I think that's great. And it's funny, you know, when I'm doing my teaching, when we teach writers and coach writers and stuff, I talk about sailing, I talk about walking, you know, walking in nature and things like that, and you know, so on. And I've noticed that people really respond to those types of information to learn a little bit more about the person who's interacting and teaching them, and they really love that. And they love to show their personality too when you're interacting, you know, even with a group. So I really appreciated your talk, Danielle, and I think it's super helpful to writers to present themselves better, and also to brands. So that's great. And we will possibly have Daniel back at a future conference. And for everyone who's in the middle of this conference right now, we have another speaker coming up shortly. So take a break, grab a cup of tea or coffee or whatever you like, and seltzer water, and we'll see you back here in a few minutes with the next talk. All right, see you there. Bye, everybody.